Right now, today, the world order that has governed your entire life is being shattered. Hello and welcome to Season 1 finale of Geopolitics, The Long Game. Power, money, and the world they do not want you to know. Not collapsing, cracking. The way world orders always crack, slowly at first, then faster than anyone predicted. The Roman Empire's citizens experienced rising costs, political instability, military overextension, and the slow erosion of institutional trust, and called it normal. It wasn't. They were living through a world order transition and couldn't see it. We have spent 7 episodes mapping the long game, the geography, the empire playbook, the permanent players, the hidden moves, the manufactured narratives, the financial architecture. Today, we step back and look at the whole board. What does a world order transition actually look like from the inside? Well, you're living through one. This episode shows you how to read it. This is The Long Game, Season 1, Finale. The phrase world order is almost exclusively used by the powers that benefit from the current arrangement, as if the order were a natural condition rather than a constructed one. It is not natural. It is a specific and identifiable architecture with 3 structural components, and without all 3 operating simultaneously, the position cannot hold. The first is a dominant power with sufficient material superiority, military reach, economic weight, technological advantage, to set and enforce the rules. In the current order, that power is the United States. The second is a set of institutions that give the dominant powers preferences, the appearance of universal rules, the UN Security Council, the IMF, the World Bank, NATO, the International Criminal Court, which, instructively, has never prosecuted a citizen of a permanent Security Council member. These institutions do not create the order, they legitimate it. The third, and most fragile, is consent, not enthusiastic endorsement, but acquiescence. The judgment by other states that operating within the order, despite its inequities, is preferable to the cost of challenging it. When legitimacy fractures, and it has progressively since the Iraq War, and when alternatives begin to appear credible, as they are, in the form of BRICS financial architecture and Chinese economic weight, the consent calculation shifts. John Mearsheimer has spent his career insisting on this mechanical reality. World orders are not what they claim to be. They are power arrangements, dressed in the language of universal values. And when the power arrangement shifts, the universal values turn out to be surprisingly flexible. A world order holds because of positional balance. The strategic weight of the dominant position is distributed across its 3 components: military, financial, and ideological, in a way that no single dimension is asked to carry more than it can bear. When the balance is correct, the order can absorb enormous pressure without visible deformation. When it is not, the position starts to crack. The current world order has held for approximately 80 years, from Bretton Woods in 1944 to the present. The previous British-led order lasted roughly a century, from the Congress of Vienna in 1815 to the First World War in 1914. The historical record shows that world orders rarely fail because they are defeated militarily. They fail because one of the 3 equilibria collapses first, which then destabilizes the other 2. Britain's order did not fail because Germany won the First World War. It failed because the economic cost of winning the First World War destroyed the financial foundations of British primacy. Alex Craner's observation is worth thinking about. He says that the United States since 2001 has been running the same calculation that Britain ran between 1914 and 1945, spending the financial foundations of its primacy on the military assertion of that primacy. The position is absorbing pressure it was not designed to carry. Strategic positions do not give visible warning before they yield. They hold and hold and hold, and then they do not. The pattern is consistent. Orders do not end with a single catastrophic event. They end through a sequence. First, the legitimacy of the dominant power fractures, then challengers begin to test the enforcement mechanism, then secondary powers start hedging, maintaining membership in the existing order, while developing alternatives. Then, a triggering event reveals that the world order framework has already yielded, and the transition accelerates faster than anyone had anticipated. The British order illustrates the sequence precisely. The legitimacy fracture began with the First World War. The enforcement mechanism was tested throughout the 1930s as Germany, Italy and Japan found the League of Nations could not impose costs on determined defectors. Secondary powers hedged. The triggering event came in 1956 at Suez, which today's notation will examine in full. Craner's assessment of the US current situation maps onto this pattern. The legitimacy fracture began with Iraq 2003. The enforcement mechanism is being tested by Russia and Ukraine, by China and the South China Sea, by Iran's axis of resistance across the Middle East. Secondary players are hedging: India, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, UAE, maintaining membership in the Western-led institutions while building alternative relations. The triggering event might already have happened, and the sequence is running. Mearsheimer's caveat is essential. The end of a world order does not mean the end of the world. It means a transition, dangerous, unpredictable, often violent, to a new framework. The question is not whether the transition will happen. The historical record says it will. The question is, what gets built on the other side, and who builds it? Eight episodes, one season. The complete picture. All 7 dimensions now visible simultaneously. The dominant position is the American-led world order, constructed at Bretton Woods, extended through the Cold War and consolidated in 1991. 80 years old, but under positional stress at multiple points simultaneously for the very first time. Military reach, still operational, but just. The cost of maintaining the position is rising faster than the returns justify, and the overextension is showing. Look at the current situation in the Middle East. The financial architecture, the dollar system, Bretton Woods, the Nixon shock, petrodollar, SWIFT, IMF conditionality, all still running, but the positional advantage is eroding as the weaponization of the system accelerates the construction of alternatives. Look at the BRICS new payment systems, the permanent players, the intelligence community, the State Department's career apparatus, the Pentagon's planning structures, the think tank ecosystem, still at the board, resistant to direction changes from any elected government. But look at the turnover in Washington. The narrative layer, the media, the think tanks, the platform architecture that manages what the public sees, under more stress than at any time since the Second World War, as the gap between the official narrative and documented reality becomes too wide. Look at the board of peace. That is the full board. That is the long game in its current state. In today's notation, we go to November 1956. Britain and France, acting with Israel, have launched a military operation to retake the Suez Canal from Egypt's President Nasser. Militarily, the operation is proceeding. Egypt cannot stop them. Then the phone rings. President Eisenhower calls Prime Minister Eden and delivers a message that requires no diplomatic translation. Stop, or the United States will withdraw its support for sterling in the international currency markets. Now, without American backing, a run on the pound will be inevitable. Britain's foreign currency reserves will be exhausted within weeks. Eden stops. The operation is abandoned. Nasser keeps the canal. No battle was fought between Britain and America. No treaty was torn up. No formal transfer of power was announced. A simple phone call and a currency run lasting 4 days revealed that the British world order, the framework, had already yielded. That the load-bearing capacity of British primacy had been consumed in 2 world wars, and that the new world order had been American since 1944. Suez was simply the moment everyone had to acknowledge it. That is what the endgame sounds like in the long game. Non-explosion, a phone call, and 4 days watching the position collapse. Well, that is Season 1. 8 episodes, the board has been read in full. Season 2 begins next week, the making of the American century. We go back to 1914, to the decisions that nobody voted for. By the end of Season 2, the present will look entirely different from how it did before Episode 1. If you have found this season interesting, please subscribe, share and comment, as we are approaching a momentous time of change, and we should all be prepared. I am Richard. This has been Season 1 of The Long Game, Power, Money, and the world they don't want you to know. The board is shifting. Season 2 is where we find out how it was set up and by whom. The hidden is only hidden until you know where to look.